Hi, and welcome back to the Pleasing God Podcast, a weekly show focused on helping Christians to think biblically, engage practically, and live faithfully for the glory of God. I'm your host, Jonathan Soul.
And I'm also your host, Caitlin Soul.
Wait a minute. This is my show.
No, this one's ours.
Oh, okay. Well, I did mention in the previous show that there was some things that we were going to talk about and some kind of, I don't know, call it a new wrinkle, but something we wanted to kind of spice up the podcast a little bit. Well, here it is. I mean, I think I had such a good time recording the Fruit of the Spirit with you that, I just wanted to keep going, but kind of in a different direction.
Yeah, we've had some people reach out and ask if we were going to talk about other topics, particularly marriage, family, life type stuff as well. And so I think this is going to be our next adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. So the plan is regular Pleasing God podcast episodes. I'll do just the stuff that I have been doing with various other guests and conversation partners. And those episodes are scheduled to come out on Monday mornings.
Ideally,
yeah, sure. But in addition to just the regular season 2 episodes, we're going to do a series of talks, conversations that we've titled Imperfect Marriage. Mm-hmm. And that's where you and I are going to sit down and just talk about life lessons, things that we've learned, just various topics, things that listeners have kind of reached out and said, hey, why don't you talk about these things? Or when will you start talking about these things? And we are looking to drop those episodes through the same platform. So there's not going to be, it's not a separate podcast, but we're looking to drop those episodes maybe on Friday mornings.
Yeah.
Again, subject to, the craziness of life and whatnot. So that's it. That's kind of our secret. That's our wrinkle that we wanted to do. And I guess you would be the co-host of, let's call this Imperfect Marriage, and see where that goes. Because, well, doesn't that describe our marriage?
Yeah, for sure. Perfectly
imperfect. Mm-hmm. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about just kind of the origin of the idea? I know that people had asked questions, or hey, when are you going to do that? But kind of came out of our big long trip that we took. What did we 2,200 miles driving together?
Yep. So in July we took a anniversary trip. It was kind of a combo trip, anniversary / you had to be in Louisville for some classes. And so we decided to just do it together, kidless. It was 12 days together on the road. So it's a long time, a lot of driving. But it gave us a lot of opportunity to talk about our life, our marriage, and our ministry, our family. And I think you were the one that kind of brought up the idea, hey, why don't we have some podcasts about marriage? And it kind of morphed into this little mini series that we're going to do. We've been married for 10 years now, 5 children. We've gone through losses. We've gone through various trials. We've gone through very, very happy moments, big highs, lows. And I think that this is a good opportunity for us to maybe share some of our experiences, but also get to know one another even more in a different way. And so we were talking about all of these different options and felt like this was the platform for us to do it. And I think it'll be really good for us as a couple, but also for our ministry as well.
Yeah, I think so too. So that's kind of what we're doing. When I think about why have a conversation with you between microphones and post it on for the world to listen to. First, because I love my marriage, and not just my marriage, but I love the person I'm married to. And I think through our experiences, there are things that are worth sharing. And while we can connect and talk about various things, topics that come to mind and that we've planned out, it's also a way in which my hope is that we can be a blessing to someone else's marriage, or maybe somebody that's thinking about getting married, and how should married people interact with one another, or even kind of clear up some misunderstandings, myths of marriage, or maybe somebody had a tough go, and they didn't see a healthy marriage growing up. And that's kind of skewed them. And they think, I don't ever want to get married. And just to kind of clear up some of, misconceptions and really just kind of share our lives and let that be a blessing, source of encouragement to listeners. Mm-hmm. And, I say it often, but if there's anything that particularly for the listeners that you'd like to hear talked about, again, send your questions or your ideas to questions@pleasinggodpodcast.org. And I'd love to, go through that. Maybe even one of the Fridays we'll just do like listeners' questions. And if they're geared for Kate, make that clear, or to Jon. And again, just to be able to engage and help. Yeah. That's really the point. And it's still kind of under that big umbrella of helping Christians to think biblically about marriage, about relationships, by engaging practically so that we would live faithfully, pleasing God. Yeah. So we want, primarily, first and foremost, pleasing God in our marriage, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my heart on why I would even do this. Do you have anything that you would add to that?
I think it's really important for us to talk about marriage, the good, bad, the ugly almost, because it's so easy to see a couple that, look like they might have it all together and they've got all their little children ducks in a row and
got the perfect Instagram page.
Yeah, really. And I think that I know I find myself comparing, my family, my marriage, my ministry to others. And so I think
But when all your kids are like color coordinated and...
Well, I do like to color coordinate, okay? But but I think it's really important for us to show ourselves in a very natural way where we can just be real and honest with one another, with those around us. And I think this is a good way to do that. When you look in Scripture, the Bible is littered with marriages that were imperfect. I specifically think of Adam and Eve for one, but Sarah and Abraham and
Jacob and Leah and Rachel.
Yes, and it's just the Bible has so many imperfect marriages, and we can get so caught up in seeing the Instagram reels of beautiful families and lives, and you think that everybody's got it all together except for you. So it's really important for us to touch on the nitty-gritty of marriage too, and show that it's work, but it's worth it.
It's imperfect.
Right.
Because even the idea, the whole concept of marriage, where God joins, you think about it in the garden, God joins a man and a woman together. And there was a time, perfect marriage, Isha, right? Mm-hmm. Adam and Eve. And it was, he was smitten by her, and she was made to complement him in this perfect union together as a helper that was fit for him by his side, right? But that perfect marriage only lasted until the eating of the fruit, and then it was the blame game, and then it's he's not saying Isha like, oh wow, he's smitten by this woman. No, he blames her for all his problems, and then he blames God for her, and so you see quickly that even if you were to think biblically about how marriage started and how it's going within a chapter, and it was like, it's imperfect because we are all imperfect beings. We are sinners, saved by grace, but still progressing. The perfect marriage is what Paul says is a mystery, but that marriage represents Jesus and the church in the level of love, sacrifice, those kind of things. That's the perfect, right? Union, and it's because Christ is perfect. But we live in a fallen world with sinners who get married, and it'll never be better than imperfect. But that doesn't mean it has to be terrible, or it should be terrible, or it should be frowned upon. And so I think that's just that needs to be said and understood. You can have a healthy marriage, though,
for sure,
and that's what's most important, is like knowing that your marriage will always be imperfect, but it can be healthy, right? And how do we work towards what are practical things that we do that contribute to a healthy marriage. And so that's kind of what I hope, some of the stuff going forward that we can talk about can contribute to our lives and in the lives of others. And so how are we going to do that? We're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about wins and losses, success and failure, learning, growing, loving, and just what we think is helpful and good, and then even from what we might hear from some listeners.
And we also hope that this is an encouragement for those who are not yet married. This isn't just specifically for those who are married. We hope that this will give some context for those who are looking for a partner, what they should be looking for, how they should plan on edifying their own lives to be able to one day be with somebody. So that's also a goal of ours, is not just for those who are married, but for those who are looking for somebody to enter into this relationship with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might be good to listen to some episodes if you are married. Listen with your husband or your wife, and listen together. And, maybe that might be of value. I don't know. But could spark conversations. And, yeah, I think that'd be great. Okay, so we've kind of given a little bit of an introduction, what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're going to do it, and let's just call this the pilot episode. Sure. And next week, stay tuned. The plan is to release on Friday our first kind of full episode on imperfect marriage, building a healthy marriage. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll call it that. Who knows? But I want to thank you for listening.
Before we go.
Oh, okay.
I had an idea that at the end of all of Imperfect Marriage podcasts, that maybe we would leave off with a question to one another. It could be something very, very simple, or could be something that might have a little bit more of a thought out answer, but they're just meant to be quick, kind of get to know you, get to know me. We might already know the answer to them, we might not. But it might be a fun way to end our conversations each week. These could also be questions that were sent in by listeners that might not have to do with marriage, but about one of us. So I'll start off with a question.
All right, this is a total surprise because I'm not ready for it, but let me have it.
What is your favorite food?
What is my favorite food? Are you asking because you don't know?
No, I'm pretty sure I know, but our listeners might not know. So.
What is my favorite food? Well, I guess it would have to be the food that I could eat most often, right? Pizza. Right? I mean, pizza. Because I eat that more frequently than anything else. I would ask you that question, but I already know that you would say pizza.
I would 100% say pizza. Pizza is my answer. Anytime I get that, pizza without a question. I could eat it every day. We eat it pretty often.
I think so.
In all different forms, whether frozen or takeout, or we make it, like all sorts of ways.
Oh, different forms, like rolled up. There's only one
folded.
That would be a calzone.
Oh yeah.
Or stromboli twisted.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. Well then, I'm kind of on the spot. I guess we'll stay on food for a second. If you could only have one dessert for the rest of your life, and you have to pick this one, and you are never allowed to eat any other dessert, what is the one that you would have for the rest of your life?
Oh my goodness, because I go through waves of different types of dessert that I really enjoy, but the one that's been really constant my whole life is ice cream.
Any flavor in particular?
Oof. Oh my goodness. Also changes with pregnancies. Usually during pregnancy I crave ice cream.
Pick your flavor. That's all you got.
I think I would have to go with, oh my word, this is going to sound so bland, but I think I'd have to go with Neapolitan.
Ooh.
Because though you don't have like the chunky, you have 3 different flavors.
That's your way to get some variety?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'd be probably cookie dough. But Neapolitan, I would say.
I think if you went with cookie dough, I would say that we're pretty compatible. If we just had pizza and cookie dough ice cream for the rest of our days,
would be set.
I think we'd be fine.
Our kids, I mean, they would love that too.
Yeah, and then all their teeth would rot out of their face. So I'm glad that's not our diet every day.
It is not our diet, no.
I'll enjoy my salads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, good.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for listening to the Pleasing God podcast. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. You can reach out at questions@pleasinggodpodcast.org. And remember, 1 Thessalonians 4:3, this is the will of God, your sanctification.